Yeah!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. I guess we're here today to talk about tariffs. In fact, many people would probably be giving me a blast if we didn't talk about it, because it seems to be what's overrunning the news, what's overrunning social media, and what everyone is talking about. And we're not going to show the clips of what happened with Donald Trump. We already know what happened, and we know about the tariffs. What I'm going to briefly re-summarize for everybody is that Canada is being pushed with 25% tariffs across the board, except Alberta oil and gas, which is coming in at only 10%. Now, there are reasons for that, and a lot of it has to do with the supply that goes to America and how cheap America buys our oil for at a complete discount already. The tariff would only harm them. I've got my theories about what's going to happen with this trade war. We're going to get into that later in this video. First, I want to show, and I was waiting to do this video because, of course, we were waiting for the incoming Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre, to address what was going on, and he's done that this morning, so I wanted to put a video out today to talk about it, and then summarize what is going on a global scale here and what we can expect to see. Before we get into that, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to encourage you, if you're enjoying this content, censorship is going to be stupidly high as we go into this trade war with an election on the loom. More words about that later in the video. If you're enjoying the content, please subscribe to the channel. If you want to get your news, if you want to get your information from this channel, hit that subscribe button. Join our large Fringe majority. Costs you nothing, helps the channel more than you could possibly think. Join us today. Let's take a look at what's going on. Pierre Poilievre coming out to essentially talk about his pitch to the Liberals. He had a 20-minute presser this morning, and I'm not going to play the whole thing, obviously, but I want to highlight his plan, because I stated on a live stream that I was a little disappointed in what Pierre's reaction to this is. And people said, well, he's not doing it as bad as the Liberals, or he's not only doing it as a last resort, or there's all these things. There's a reason I want to highlight why I'm not impressed. Let's listen to his plan, and then I want to go over what that means. Let's take a listen.
Put aside partisan interests and recall Parliament. It is insane that in this great crisis, Parliament is shut down to deal with a crisis and a power struggle within the Liberal Party. Let's put aside partisan, political interests and recall Parliament to pass into place a common sense Canada First plan. And here's that plan. 1, we must retaliate dollar for dollar, carefully aiming those tariffs at maximizing the impact on American companies while minimizing the impact on Canadian. We must maximize the impact on American companies while minimizing the impact on Canadian consumers and businesses. That means targeting U.S. products that A, we can do without, B, we can buy elsewhere, or C, best of all, that we can make here at home. A best example of that would be steel and aluminum. We make the best and cleanest steel and aluminum here, but we've lost a lot of jobs to China and the United States. We should put tariffs on American steel and aluminum so that we can bring home that production to this country. 2, the tariffs must not be a tax grab. None of the money from the tariffs should stay in government coffers or be spent on unrelated government priorities. All of it should go back to the workers and businesses that are affected, and most of it should go back in the form of a massive tax cut. And that is why I'm calling for the passage of an immediate emergency bring it home tax cut. The tax cut would be designed to save jobs, create jobs, crush inflation, and boost our economy. We need to cut taxes on work, investment, energy, home building, and making stuff at home. Let's start by axing the Liberal carbon tax and the Liberal capital gains tax hike. They should be the first on the chopping block. 4, we must immediately scrap the Liberal anti-energy law C-69 and greenlight job-creating projects now. That includes LNG plants, pipelines, mines, factories, port expansions, so that we can get our products to overseas markets without going through and profiting the United States. It was insane for us to block our industries before this crisis. It is a fatal mistake now.
So I want to get into that, and I want to get into what exactly I have the problem with here. Pierre essentially is making sense out of what should be done to protect Canadians and jobs. I don't want to stomp on that. In fact, he's got probably the best plan I've heard so far by lowering taxes, by getting rid of the carbon tax, by getting rid of capital gains taxes, making it easier on the citizens to essentially buy the products they need to buy and live their lives while we go through this trade war. Now, the Liberals want this trade war. They've been pushing for this trade war. It's why you've seen Justin Trudeau going back to pandemic-style politics by saying, we're all in this together. This is Team Canada. It's time we all unite as a country and get behind the Liberals once again, because they know best. We're going to get into what their problem is, but the reason I don't like what Pierre's doing is because he's talking about a retaliation, a dollar-for-dollar retaliation. The problem when you retaliate is that you're pushing back on a businessman who has more cards to play on the table than we do as a country. Keep in mind, Texas's GDP is larger than the entire country of Canada. They can sit us out. They can wait this out. There's no problem. You don't want to push back. You want to find a way to negotiate, a way to come to the table. If you don't believe me, times are about to get tougher because according to the Clown Broadcasting Corporation, it says here, U.S. to increase tariffs if Canada retaliates, its sources. U.S. President Donald Trump launched a trade war against Canada on Saturday by imposing a 25% tariff on virtually all goods. Sources told CBC's David Cochrane that the U.S. is ready to increase tariffs if Canada retaliates. You don't want to go back and retaliate with these guys. I understand we're using CBC as an anchor point for that, but it's important to highlight that. The biggest problem here that we've come to see out of this trade war is essentially what I tweeted out last night. I want to share that with you guys. I said here, we've been dragged into a dick-measuring trade war with a ruthless businessman by a guy who sits like this. Let that sink in and prepare to lose everything. They want the trade war. Why do they want the trade war? Well, don't take it from me. Listen to Brian Lilley. This is all part of the plan. You look at what's happened with the proroguing of Parliament, the leadership race call, stating that that was the reason to prorogue Parliament. Parliament can't be prorogued when we're dealing with a national crisis and a trade war. This is all a plan for the Liberals to cling to power. Let's listen to what Brian Lilley has to say.
One of the questions I get the most is, when is Canada going into a federal election? Well, the answer is we may not head into one until September 2026. Yeah, you heard that, September 2026. That's the last time that we're able to. The vote has to be held before the 5-year mark of the last vote, which was October 2021. That's the Constitution. Yes, we've got fixed election date laws, but they're not worth the paper they're printed on. They have all kinds of outs for parties to be able to do this. If Mark Carney takes over and becomes Liberal leader and Prime Minister, he could cut a deal with Jagmeet Singh and the NDP and say, we've got a national emergency because of Donald Trump and these tariff threats. We've got to stay in power. They could stick around, not just until the summer, not just until October, but all the way until the fall of 2026, all because of our strange government and constitutional system.
That should scare the living crap out of everybody. Everybody watching this video. I know people say this is fear porn, you're fear mongering. This is reality. This is the reality we're in. And the only reason I'm discussing it is because we've seen the Liberals take every loophole they have to stay in power so far. What would stop them from doing this moving forward? Jagmeet Singh has already flip-flopped once again to say that, well, we're worried about workers, we're worried about the trade war. He's already setting up the narrative to say we have to print COVID-style relief money for Canadians and give out free money that, of course, and I'm urging people once again, if they do offer this, do not take a red cent of this money. It'll just give them an excuse to take everything you own, take your house, charge back, claw back, say we shouldn't have given you that money. If you think that the deficit climbed during the pandemic, wait and see what happens when they try to provide some form of a universal basic income / relief for people to deal with their trade war. It's nothing more than bribe money to Canadians to keep them in power. And we have to be vigilant at this time. This is why, again, we should be asking the Conservatives that when you get into power, when are you going to fix our laws that change these types of weird constitutional loopholes for parties to stay in power? Why is it that parties can hold our countries hostage and keep us at the helm while screwing our country over for their own benefits so that they can line their pockets? Again, I urge anybody to take a look at what Justin Trudeau's net worth was as he entered politics versus when he's leaving politics. A lot of people know that figure already, but the amount, if you don't know, would surprise and astonish you. It's almost 15 times his complete net worth over a 10-year period. And that's the money that we know about, ladies and gentlemen. This is all, again, it goes back to the warnings heeded from Liz Truss from the UK saying, do not put Mark Carney in power. He bankrupted the Bank of England. He did it with the whole Brexit thing. Well, now we have a national crisis with this tariff war. Donald Trump is doing more harm than good for Canadians right now by basically giving the Liberals an excuse to cling to power. It's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next week as this unfolds, whether we see retaliatory tariffs, whether we see Trudeau and his cult start to roll out the narrative that, hey guys, Team Canada, we're all in it together. We need power for a little longer. Whatever happens, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be here making sure to give you guys that information as it unfolds. Let me know what you think. Do you think that Pierre's plan makes sense? I do, all but retaliating. I think everything that he's talking about minus retaliation is the best plan for us moving forward. The government shouldn't benefit from this by any means. Any means. Many people saying, why is it that they haven't handled the border? Why haven't they handled what Donald Trump's talking about? It's because they don't want to. They want to stay in power. It's all a power grab. That's the end game for them. But Pierre's plan makes sense. Let me know if you think it makes sense. Let me know if you think that this is a power grab for the Liberals. Let me know down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Again, make sure to click your bell for notifications. Join me live here on the channel each and every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe, our live streaming show, where I sit down with the beautiful Mrs. Fringe and we talk about everything that's happened this week in politics, everything we know that's coming up in the week ahead, as well as some back and forth within the greatest community on the YouTube platform. We look forward to hearing what you guys have to say each and every Friday night here on the streams, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say this Friday night, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video and have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.